And we are up. This is episode number 59 of the Our Town podcast. And with me is a familiar face, as he was on this program a long time ago. Last year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little over 10 months ago.
Different world.
Chad had asked me, Chad Emerson, Managing Director, Business Operations. Is that the full title?
That's right.
For the, now they're playing, inaugural season of the Huntsville City Football Club, which is in the MLS Next Pro League. And I want to talk to him about that. There's also the MLS Next League under that. And, of course, they are the affiliate to Nashville in the MLS. And previously when Chad was on, if you haven't caught episode 8, shame on you. I thought that was one of the best ones.
That was a fun conversation.
Because the news had just come out the day before that Huntsville, according to U.S. News and World Report, was the best place to live in the country. How you doing? How you been over the last 10 and a half months? Just as a, high-level primer.
Yeah, busy with a capital B. No, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's transitioned to the new role last September.
Yeah.
And obviously starting this squad from scratch. The best part of that, though, is that with Nashville Soccer Club being our parent club, we're part of that family, right? And so we're able to lean into all of the expertise that they have at the parent club. So whether it be marketing or whether it be ticketing, things like that. So it's helped make it a smooth transition. But getting Joe Davis Stadium open for May 19th is really what I think about in my dreams.
That's right. We just as a quick overview, they're going to play 7 away games, and then on May 19th we'll have our first home game. And the delay, because you look at any schedule, like 7 away games, who hates you, right, in the scheduling department? Well, they're waiting for the stadium, and they've already started. And later we're going to go through and we're going to look at some of the pictures of maybe the first preseason match that they had.
Yep.
And Chad will talk about all of that. And then the interesting thing, too, the parallel here that I really want to dive into is Nashville, the MLS team, has also just done this 2-3 years ago, opening a new stadium, starting last year. That's right. And creating a team from scratch. So here's like this blueprint, if you will. Hey, Chad, we just did this up here. Let's get this going down here. But before we start on that, I do want to go back to one thing that we talked about in episode 8.
Okay.
And that was that you turned 50 last year and you did 12 half marathons every month. Can you, and I was so inspired by that.
No, I didn't 12 a month. I did 1 a month.
Oh, right. For 12.
Month.
That's right.
That would have been crazy 12 a month.
I misspoke.
144.
Your goal for the year was to do 1 per month.
That's right.
And the difficulty and the challenge of that is finding half marathons, particularly in our region, like June, July, August, when it's blazing hot. So if you could, what were some of the destinations that you went to kind of seek after a half marathon?
So, especially during the pandemic, running became a real love of mine. It's just something I think is not just good for you physically, it's good for your headspace as well. And so as I turned 50, said, what could I do to challenge myself in that running world? Ran half marathons before, but not maybe 1 or 2 a year. And so I said, let's do 1 a month. And sounded like a good idea. Then you get July and you're running in 90-degree heat, 12 or 13.1 miles. But really was a fun way to challenge myself physically and mentally, and ended up running some races with people I know. That was great. Ran some with nobody I knew. That was fun as well. Got to go from the Kentucky Derby, ran through Churchill Downs for that race, ran along the riverfront in Chattanooga and Florence, Alabama, and ran a night race that finishes after dark, and that was a fun experience.
Yeah.
So it was just really a great experience. It got me a lot of miles, and I needed a little bit of rest. So I just literally have not run a half marathon since December.
Right.
But looking forward to later this month going back to the Kentucky Derby, and that's one of the best races. If you're a half marathoner running through Churchill Downs, seeing some of the horses as they're getting ready for the Derby the next weekend.
Wow.
That's pretty iconic.
So how close do you get to the track? the actual horse track? When
You
you're
actually
running?
run in the infield. So if
Okay.
you go to the Derby, there's a hole that kind of like at some of the NASCAR facilities as well. There's a big infield. So you run under a tunnel, and then so you don't actually run on the dirt.
Yeah.
But so you're in the infield. You kind of run around, and it's early enough that some of the horses are started to arrive, and you can see them training or whatever, and they're just majestic
Yeah.
creatures, right? And you run through there, and you hear the call.
That's so cool.
I mean, all
Yeah.
that. And it's just like, that's about halfway through the race, a little further than halfway through. And so you're starting to feel a little mentally, physically down. And then you
Yeah.
hear the call to the start, and you're like, all right, got this.
So that's a week before the actual Derby?
Yep. It's
Okay.
the Saturday before the Derby.
So that sounds similar to like Daytona. They do race week when NASCAR comes for the 500. They start like a week out and do all kinds of races. There's a 24-hour race and just all these different series. And like you were saying, the infield, I think there's an actual lake in the middle of Daytona International Speedway.
Oh, yeah.
And they do like water skiing events there. Like you just forget how big it is.
Well, one of my closest friends, his wife is a native of actually Jeffersonville, Indiana, but in the Louisville area because
Yeah.
the state line's right there. And her father and her family's been connected to the Derby since she was just super small. So they have a lot of traditions. It's fun to, eat some of the traditional Derby food that they have and spend time there. So it's a race, but it's really it's an experience, and I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it special is, getting to authentically experience a cultural thing like Derby Week up there. That's a big deal to them. So
Sure.
it's an honor to be able to do so.
Just as a quick aside, but every time I think about the Kentucky Derby, I think of my chemistry teacher in 11th grade, and he was a very mean man for the first little while, and like he just used like intimidation. And we're like, how do we get this guy to soften up? And one of the things I've learned in life is just with people, right? Get to know people, take an interest in them, try to figure out something about them, and usually they'll soften, right, when you kind of touch that spot. Turns out he has been a security guard at Churchill Downs for the Derby for like his whole life.
Really?
And we stumbled upon it, and that changed everything in that class, where he just beamed. And sometimes it was almost too much. It's almost too much talking about Kentucky Derby. We had to get back to chemistry. But
Well, it's a special experience. At the beginning of the race, you line up downtown, and they do the national anthem. They play Old Kentucky Home.
yeah,
Which is kind of like, if you're from Knoxville, it's like Rocky Top. It's the song that, and I every single time I have nothing to do with Kentucky. I have never lived in Kentucky. I've only driven through it, but I get choked up just hearing that because you hear all these people singing that song. So man, I'm looking forward to that in a few weeks.
and what was the furthest you had to travel last year to catch a race?
I guess the furthest I was originally going to go out to Las Vegas and do some things, and then life changed a lot. So I think the furthest was probably up to Louisville.
Okay.
Try to keep it regional.
Yeah,
I had grand plans of traveling the country, and then it kind of hit me.
well, that's true, right? That coincided with. It'd be one thing if you were still at the post of CEO of Downtown Huntsville,
Yeah.
and maybe you could, at that point your schedule is a lot more manageable, right? And you've got knowns and unknowns, right? But yeah, when you're changing jobs halfway through the year and halfway through your goal, that probably becomes very intense.
It moderated expectations, but I still finished.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's dive into. I found an article trying to figure out how far back. I always like to figure out, okay, how far back did this idea come? And it's interesting in talking about the soccer team that it also involved Nashville in creating Joe Davis Stadium, because the owner of, I think it was the Emerson triplets in Evanston, Indiana, were a AA team baseball.
Okay.
And the owner wanted to get them to AAA, so he wanted to move them to Nashville, which then meant they had to have a new AA team, and he wanted that AA team to be in Evansville. They reject it, and then they say, okay, well, let's do it in Huntsville, and they built Joe Davis Stadium. So then we fast forward all these years. Now, 2015, I believe, right? The Huntsville Stars get moved to Biloxi, or they get sold, and now there's no occupant. There's no or I guess we have to have a new plan, new strategy for Joe Davis. So that's 2015. And part of this is I want to ask you, just kind of going behind the scenes, right? And have you learned some of that history? But then 2019, November of 2019, the mayor comes out. They have a press conference. We are going to spend $8 million. We're going to renovate Joe Davis Stadium. We're going to do multi-use. We hope that we can attract soccer.
Yep.
Then you fast forward to 2020, well, it's last summer where it's announced, right? And Ian, what's his last name?
Ian Ayre.
Ian Ayre. And who is Ian Ayre?
Ian Ayre is the CEO of Nashville Soccer Club as well as our club.
And I just didn't want to get him confused with the actual owner.
The owner's John Ingram.
John Ingram.
He's the principal owner, and there's some other owners as well.
And are they English or Scottish? What is their...
Ian, I know, is from the United Kingdom. He was actually the CEO of Liverpool.
That's right.
For a while. So that's when Liverpool had its real renaissance into its international status. Ian was one of the key leaders in that.
I guess my question to you is, I interviewed you in May as the CEO of Downtown Huntsville. There's a lot of excitement around us being number one. You probably went on you were gracious to spend some time with me, and then off, we love that kind of news, right? And it was just wildfire, and now we're entering in other polls, and and actually shout out to you. In having that discussion with people at the proverbial water cooler and stuff, I shared with them the fact of air quality that you had shared with me. That was one interesting new measurement that they were considering that perhaps had some impetus behind bumping us up, right, in the scores. But and then July, the announcement comes out, okay, we're bringing soccer here. But at the time, it didn't. And help me understand in July where they were in the process, because things I read, it said like, okay, we have a lot of heavy lifting to do. We have to get the stadium is in progress under renovation. Now we're going to have to get a team. We need to get a roster. We need to get a logo. We got to brand this thing, and presumably find a managing director for business operations. And then in August you get hired. So if you could, do you mind walking through kind of that last summer from, let's just say, from the time you left this podcast on May 18th to July? Were you aware at all of the plans, and were you a part of those plans?
Yeah, so it's an interesting backstory. Really started helping Mayor Battle and John Hamilton, the city, just with some outreach when they knew that minor league soccer with professional soccer was something that could be a great fit for the renovated Joe Davis. There is a variety of different leagues. And so started reaching out to some of my contacts I knew in Nashville, and ultimately ended up getting in touch with Ian and just asking, what do you know about these different leagues? What are the different directions? And at that time, MLS Next Pro had not been announced. So there were other leagues, really great leagues, but Next Pro was about to be announced. So it was really that interesting thing. So we received some good advice, but we also said, hey, let's follow up this conversation in just a little bit. And what that meant was when Next Pro was announced, that became a potential option. And most of the Next Pro teams were starting out as based in the same market as their MLS parent club.
Right.
And so one of the things that Nashville and Mayor Battle's office started talking about is, what if there was a different way of doing that? What if instead of having your MLS Next Pro team in the same market, maybe a smaller stadium nearby, or even in the same stadium, what if we were within driving distance, 90 minutes away, but a different market and a different name brand? So instead of being, Nashville Soccer Club 2 or Nashville Soccer Club B, it's Huntsville City Football Club. And so that really appealed to the city. And so I just helped facilitate that process. That's all I was doing. It's in the downtown area, and I knew some about soccer. And by the time, next thing I know, after a while, they announce it, and it's super exciting. City Council approves it unanimously. I mean, everyone's excited. And I wasn't expecting this, but it just became an opportunity where we started talking, and they're like, hey, we could really use someone in the community who knows about Huntsville. That one of the differences of not being in the same market as your parent club is there's other people in the other market, right? And you get to know them. And so reached out, and at first I was like, I'd never been in professional soccer before. But what I really learned is the position is just about as much community building and community interaction, making HCFC a part of our community, not just a team that plays in our community. Yeah. And so when the opportunity presented itself, it was a really hard decision because I love downtown Huntsville, not just as a destination, but the people that make what downtown Huntsville is. But this was a new challenge, and I kind of a sucker for new challenges, I guess.
So you in a way almost a job interview was just through that process of them interacting with you, asking for opinion. You're showing your background in law and other things to offer your opinion,
Yeah.
right, and some advice and consult. And then perhaps I would imagine in those discussions they kind of think, well, wait a minute, Chad actually might be the best candidate. Go ahead.
Well, it's interesting, and one of the things life lessons I learned in that one, always looking for what's a good life lessons to learn, is that I'd never even thought of it. I was just helping out because I wanted our community to have a professional soccer team. I thought it'd be great for our community to have. But even as you're interacting with people, even if you don't realize it, they're developing an opinion of you, and they're noticing your skills or your lack of skills. And so it really caused me to think, whenever I'm doing something, don't just think about, who is watching, but who else could be watching, because I think that's a really, really important. I've told that to my boys before. Just the story of how I ended up here is, kind of fell backwards into it.
Yeah.
But be aware of your surroundings all the time and try to act, ethically, honorably, and not always think about like, how could this be a financial gain, but how could this be something to grow into.
What's interesting, and it's a skill over 9+ years in that post. People, you provide such a lasting legacy, good reputation, trust, respect, loyalty, all that kind of stuff, where people forgot that you came from Montgomery. Because I saw on someone's comment when they introduced your predecessor or your successor, is his name
Rob Bodo.
The comments are like, "Oh, I can't believe they did this. Why wouldn't you get someone who knows Huntsville?" Like, we just went through this 9 years ago with Chad Emerson, and I'm sure maybe social media wasn't as prevalent back then. It probably was, but or just the level of commentary that people exercise now, right? Oh, they're just going to share their opinion. It was kind of like, well, that was kind of a dumb statement.
Yeah.
But hey, hats off to you to inject yourself in such a way and leave that legacy where people feel like, hey, they adopted you as their own.
Well, the nice thing about Huntsville is you don't have to live here too long to be a long-term Huntsvillian, right? There's a lot of people moving in from all over the country and world. So I feel like living here now, a decade plus, this feels as home as anywhere I've ever lived.
Now, let me go back to episode 2. I'll give a shout out to Penn Garbage. He's no longer with the Corn. He was with, what was the name of his company?
Night Edie?
Yes, Night Edie, right, in the Huntsville Championship. He's not Radiance Technologies. Presumably, their tournament's at the end of this month. I haven't. I've been so busy.
It's the Ledges. Hometown Lenders Corn Ferry Tour tournament and the Ledges at the end of April.
Okay, give a plug to them. But one comment he made to me was, if at the end of the day, after the 6 days that those players are here and they're doing their practice rounds and they're playing golf, if all they did was to deliver a golf tournament, then they failed. Their goal was far more of community building and having those lasting relationships, which has allowed Hometown Lenders to re-up their contract right out. I think they're out through 2027 now at the Ledges, which is great. So, and you had just said that, right? It's not just, it's your excitement comes from a lot more than just Joe Davis Stadium and the soccer team, but we're also talking multi-use. You're also talking about the MLS Next, not the Next Pro, the Next, which is kind of the younger, the 17U, 16U, 15U, right? I believe, of all the next generation of players coming up, so that we can, as a nation, compete more on the world stage. Can you now, can you walk me through how you understood the scope of your position, of this new position of business operations? Because similar to like the Pandas, they have no control over the team. Los Angeles Angels do, but everything that goes on at Toyota Field and all the operations. Or is yours a hybrid where you actually do have? I did see that you traveled with the team for their match, their first couple matches away. Can you now talk about your role? And maybe we'll just use the Trash Pandas because I've had them on talking about the difference between their model and your model.
Yeah, both great models. The difference here is, whereas that's an affiliation.
Yeah.
The Trash Pandas are locally owned and operated, and they have basically a player agreement with the Angels in California. this is vertically integrated in terms of ownership. So
Okay.
The head of Nashville Soccer Club, Ian, is also the head of our club. And then I report to him on the business front office side. And then the general manager of Nashville Soccer Club, as well as our local director of operations, they report on the soccer side. And so, but it's all integrated under the same ownership. And that has a lot of positives because you're able to lean into the expertise, again, of the parent club, and it's pretty seamless as well. We all have our staff meetings together. We're all part of the same soccer family, those soccer companies. So that's what's a little bit different than an affiliation agreement. And then there's even the Havoc model, which is even a little bit different itself. Is it's all locally. Everything is locally owned, including the players. They procure their players locally, as opposed to having them provided by an affiliation agreement.
Right.
So it's interesting. In Huntsville, there's 3 professional sports teams and 3 different models for doing so, and I think all going to be very successful. I know the Havoc and Trash Pandas have been, and I'm pretty excited about our success.
Yeah, and I think I just love it, even for like a business school type thing or marketing. When you take a youngster and you kind of open their eyes to the possibilities of things and expose them to, okay, yeah, we have these minor league teams, but they're, from a business perspective, they're all very different.
Yep.
And how exciting it is in marketing, right? Yeah, you got baseball fans, you've got hockey fans, and you have a whole bunch of soccer fans now, and you're going to see a whole different level of pride in Huntsville when this is as it goes live, and I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah, and one of the fun things is that we have a great soccer community here in Huntsville and North Alabama, Tennessee Valley in general. But soccer is really appealing, especially live soccer, because you play for 45 minutes. The clock never stops.
Yep.
Goes to halftime. There's a 15, 20-minute halftime. Starts back up 45 minutes. And so it's fast-paced. There's not a lot of downtime, dead time. The ball's always moving, things like that. And so I think it'll be really exciting form of entertainment for people who don't just play soccer or have kiddos that play soccer, but just love to see an exciting environment. And that's what we're trying to create at Joe Davis.
Yeah.
We are the anchor tenant, but we also have the master operating agreement. So any event that happens inside Joe Davis Stadium for the next decade, and there's an additional term, we'll coordinate that. So that's really exciting to not just serve as the anchor tenant, but we'll host high school football on Friday nights.
Yeah.
We'll host all kinds of small corporate board meetings. We'll host a variety of, if you can play it on a square field.
That's right.
I say, yeah. I mean, the nice thing, it's artificial turf, so it's durable, so we can do other things on the turf. We can have concerts.
No
we can
rain
have
outs.
boxing matches. We can all do kind of things. So
Yeah.
it's a really, really, it's going to become it has been, and that's what's so great about what the city did. So many people in our city have amazing memories of going to Joe Davis Stadium.
Sure.
With friends, with family, right? A generation later, some of those kids and some of those grandkids will now be able to create their own new memories at the new Joe Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, the 2 favorite I hear from people are when like Jordan came to play when he was playing AA ball,
Yeah.
and then on rehab assignments like McGuire, Canseco, because it was an athletics affiliate, and just getting to see them play. But I haven't interviewed enough people to know like what other cool things happened. But my understanding is similar to minor league baseball. MLS Next Pro is going to be trying out different, either whether it's rule changes and things.
Yeah.
Like one of them in particular is no ties, and that's that's a big departure from traditional football and soccer, right? So there's that, and then there's others, but they do the same thing in baseball and others. Let's try the pitch clock out, which is new now in Major League. Let's make the base bigger. Are there other things you're aware of, or what's your thoughts on that as you kind of break tradition?
Yeah, which is really fascinating. Our very first match in Charlotte against Crown Legacy, regulation time ended in a tie, and before that, everyone would take their point and go home. You get a point for a tie, 3 for a win. And, there's something just, incomplete sometimes about a tie, right? Who won? Well, you didn't. And so what MLS Next Pro did as a league, something really innovated, they say if it ends in a tie in regulation, it goes straight to penalty kicks. No overtime, straight to penalty kicks. And the winner of the penalty kick gets 2 points. The other team still gets the 1 point for tying in regulation. So there's an opportunity to get 2 points instead of 1. So that's good. But penalty kicks are exciting. I mean, if you've ever been to a soccer match, it's one of those things. You watch it in the World Cup, you watch it in UEFA, you watch it in other places, high school soccer, and it's just, 1v1 right there.
I know.
High energy. And so instead of ending in a tie, which feels a little bit complete, you're actually, some people may be rooting for a tie because, by golly, that's exciting when it goes to PKs.
Yeah.
That was tense. We were sitting there and I was just like, Lordy B, this is really, really exciting. If this happens multiple times during the year, this is going to be high impact.
And just for clarification, in case anybody's confused, what I think you just said, 2 points is more for your record and your standings. It's not the 2 points in the game.
Yeah,
and then that way, instead of the loser getting 0, they do get 1.
So typically, the team that wins the soccer match gets 3 points in the standings for your ranking, and then the team that loses gets 0. If there was a tie, the teams would each get 1 point, adding to their total where their standings are. This twist gives you an extra bonus point, essentially, for winning the penalty kick shootout.
Gotcha. So talk about then your role in operations and what you have on your plate. And I would assume there's maybe some concessions. You got to hire staff. You've got parking. You've got season tickets. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, we have a lot of different departments. Again, we're very fortunate to be able to lean into and rely on our partners up in Nashville at Nashville Soccer Club, our colleagues up there. So the front office is basically all of the non-soccer aspects of not just the team, but also the operation of Joe Davis.
Right.
So you have everything from ticketing, marketing, communications, stadium operations, go down the list, corporate partnerships, things like that. So those are all, we have, connections to our colleagues in Nashville, and then we have our team here, based here, helping sell everything from corporate partnerships to tickets to create great marketing to create effective communications. And so all of that is on the business side. So I lead that part of the team. And then we have our soccer side, which are our coaches and our players, and have a very close partnership with Liam Doyle. He's our local director of soccer operations. And we've got a great coach, great players. That's been one of those things you never know when you take the job is what kind of coach and players and personnel are you going to get? I mean, you can kind of control who you hire, but not the players and stuff. And boy, they have come in and embraced the community.
That's awesome. Let me tie together two things that you said. When you became the CEO of Downtown Huntsville, you had mentioned that you did a lot of listening in the first 90 days. Then whether that was before or during, I believe you guys went up to Chattanooga to look for kind of a template of how do they do things there and just different downtowns. So now you're in this role. I would assume you're doing a lot of listening because you're not familiar to soccer. Yeah, your kids play soccer. We've all played some soccer, but not on the professional level. Right now we're talking business. So you're doing some listening, I would imagine. But now you have Nashville as is the owner. They have a pro team. Do you all have some other organization that you have learned from, that they've learned from, that they've shared those notes with you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, what's really cool about Nashville Soccer Club is before it was an MLS squad, Major League Soccer team, it started off in the USL,
right?
Which was the United Soccer League, I believe I'm calling it here. But it was basically a lower level team. And so there are still people in the organization, including Patrick, who's our director of operations now here in Huntsville, who were with them in those quote unquote USL days where they would be playing at the Nashville Sound Stadium, and they'd be lining their fields and they'd be doing a lot of that grassroots activations. That's important at this level of competition and in a community. And so that really helped being able to talk to folks like Chris Jones and Lindsay Paola and Patrick Cesaro and those, and learn what they learned, not starting an MLS team, but starting a USL team that evolved. And so that was more of when you're, like I say, is we all have our job titles, and then we are all Swiss Army knives, right? True. Swiss Army knife, what's the main person? It's a knife, but it also does a lot of things. So if someone needs a field lined and I have some free time, put me on the tractor.
That's awesome. Yeah, like, you have a screwdriver? No, but maybe let me check my Swiss Army knife, right?
We are all Swiss Army knives at Huntsville City Football Club.
And I think I read that a lot of your targets you've already smashed through. So you're gonna have corporate, or you're gonna have boxes, right? Hospitality, suites, and et cetera. And I'm sure that it was maybe a little bit difficult to project sales and interest, but my understanding is you guys have had an overwhelming response. People are excited, and you've blown through those targets, and perhaps have had to set new targets. Can you
Yeah,
talk
we've
through
been
that?
really both pleased and frankly humbled by the response in Huntsville. Everything from when we announced the team's identity to started selling tickets and season tickets and corporate partnerships. All of our projections were exceeding, which is exciting, especially when you think about this. The stadium's probably not going to be done until like a week or so before. So people, are embracing the vision, and that's really about what it is a vision.
Yeah.
When we're able to bring people into the stadium, we'll do a few hard hat tours, but actually bring the general public into the stadium and see how just beautifully designed. It's right on the field. It's going to feel like you're in the middle of the match. And so we think once we get through that point, the excitement will grow even more. And
Yeah.
that's really, really exciting to think about.
Sure. And are you already scheduling fall like football games and such in soccer or lacrosse at the youth level?
Part of our lease with the city provides that we'll make certain Fridays in the fall available for Huntsville City School high school football. They have Milton Frank, and they play some games up at A&M, and so they'll have an opportunity to play here. So we're working with them on that. Other than that, if it's, again, synthetic turf is so durable compared to grass that you're able to maybe do more during the season than you could on a grass field because you don't have to worry about tearing it up or. And so we'll have opportunities. And just think about this: if it can be played on a rectangular field, so
Yeah.
American football,
Yep.
soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, ultimate frisbee, rugby. We have rugby sleeves there,
That's awesome.
so it'd be great to see a live rugby match there.
Yeah.
And then obviously you can have everything where you could put a stage in the center or a boxing ring in the center or an MMA
Yeah.
octagon in the center. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so many things that we could do there. So right now we're laser focused on getting the stadium done and ready for our soccer season and then high school football in the fall. But we could see, and we anticipate growing the use of the stadium. We want Joe Davis to be a place that you don't just create soccer match memories or even high school football match memories. We'll have, weddings there. I suspect
Yeah.
someone will be Christmas Eve service there, Easter egg rolls. We just want people to view Joe Davis as a gathering place and a new place to create memories with your friends and family.
And remind me, so does the city own it?
Yes, it's city owned and we lease it.
And you lease it, and you have offices there, and you share those with others, or how does that work with just kind of the flexibility, freedom you have to kind of access the facility?
Yeah, we're exclusive operators of it.
Okay.
Our offices are actually at Lincoln Mill.
Okay.
Great new development right there in
Yep.
the Meridian area. So that's where our front offices are, and then our soccer offices. We've leased the state championship fields, just literally down JC Way and the south side of John Hunt Park, and so our soccer offices are down there, as well as the locker rooms for the players and the training fields and things like that. That's where we hosted our two of our preseason matches. So we have a Lincoln Mill front office, and then the stadium, and then our training facility. So it's basically up and down the parkway. You can get to almost all of our assets.
Yeah. Are your kids excited for you? Like, I know they're big soccer players.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you've traveled quite a bit to follow them around and go to tournaments.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting. Two of them were in college, so since most of our matches will be in the summer, they'll have the opportunity to come back. They're going to probably spend the whole summer somewhere else, but bring them back and just go out there. And I think from talking to the kids, I think what people are really going to be surprised is the high level of soccer, but also the high level of the experience.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it a fun place to go, even if you have no idea what offsides is. If
Yeah.
you've never been to a soccer match, and that's what, for example, the Havoc do so well. I'll bet you a good chunk of people in Probst Arena have no idea what that blue line is for and what is icing,
Icing,
right?
yeah.
I grew up in Detroit, so I know that, but a lot of people probably don't.
Yeah.
But they make it such a fun experience, all ages friendly. And so, as a hat tip to them, I think they're a great model for a sport that maybe is not as familiar as maybe American football or baseball, but people enjoy the experience.
Yeah. And I think that, I'm still fairly new here, just under a year and a half. But as the city grows, we need the Orion. We need Toyota Field. We need Probst Arena. Because there's a lot of people, and we only can go to, all those venues can only fit so many people.
Yep.
And we also have different interests. And so how cool is it now Joe Davis kind of re-enters the picture. And it was funny. I think Bruce Johnson, right, from WHNT interviewed you at one point, and I remember you said something. Steve Johnson. He's like, "That sounds familiar," because he's been doing the news long enough, right? Yeah. He probably remembers when it was opening, and that was kind of a cool comment for those who are going to get to come back and say, "Wow, I really liked what you did," or just, "Wow, this is so cool. I'm glad that this is here."
Well, what's cool too is, it's so Huntsville in terms of we're such a collaborative city, in my opinion. I can pick up the phone and call Garrett over at the Trash Pandas, or Keith over at the Havoc, or Ryan over at the Orion, and say, hey, if you dealt with a vendor on this, or if you got an idea on this, or how did this work, or something like that. And everyone's ready to share information. I mean, on some level, there is ultimately competing for the entertainment dollar, but I think there's enough disposable income in the city that people want to try different experiences rather than do the same thing every time. Yeah. So that's been a really good collaboration between our other new entertainment destinations.
Let's look at the logo. Let's see. There it is.
Yeah.
And oops, that's you. There you go. Okay, I got a lot of buttons. So I think I know the answers to these things, but were you so kind of going back to the summer of July of last year? Then you get hired officially in August, but though you were in talks.
September 1st.
September 1st. Yep. Sorry. I guess you were just kind of announcing it like on social media that you were departing.
Yes.
That type of thing. Did you have any sort of input into this, and just kind of walk us through the construct and the symbolism of the logo?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I was still assisting, Mayor Battle and John Hamilton and the other city leaders, and so we were meeting at City Hall with the senior leadership team of Nashville Soccer Club. Teresa, who leads the marketing team, her and her super talented folks there created an initial draft of this, and so the first time I saw this was as someone who is helping the city, and so I was able to look at it from the locals' perspective, not as someone who's trying to persuade someone to like this, and it really resonated. I mean, you could tell the thoughtfulness that they put into the name and the logo and things like that. So there's a nod, for example, to Nashville Soccer Club. We are our own brand. We're uniquely Huntsville, but we're also part of a larger soccer family. And so it's cool to have the Nashville yellow there. And there's a couple of things on the jersey. When we release the home jersey, you'll see that kind of have a nod to that. And then obviously the rocketry, the history here. And so some of those elements. And then they incorporate some of the elements from the city's crest, or whatever the official
seal or
seal,
crest.
Seal. That's right. Perfect. And so it was like taking all these different parts, right? And you have a jigsaw puzzle, and it looks disjointed in a bunch of different parts, but when you put it together, it creates a cohesive whole. So they took a jigsaw puzzle and put together, and I think it's a pretty stunning logo.
So the only thing that's hard for me is, like, if from a nickname perspective, right? If I'm going to go on May 19th to the home opener, which I will. And I say, okay, I'm going to see the Huntsville City Football Club player, the football club, versus just saying the Havoc, right? Or the Panda. You know what I mean? Like, is there a shortened nickname that people are using to, how do they reference that?
Yeah, I think it'll develop itself. Traditional soccer clubs, aren't as nickname driven as, say, some American sports. Right. You have them in some areas, and some of the even early MLS teams like the Seattle Sounders, the Portland Timbers, had those kind of Americanized second names. Whereas now the trend is more the new teams in the league: FC Cincinnati, Charlotte FC,
or Real.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see the word United used. Some of those, which talks about as a United team,
right?
Manchester United team, and so. With Huntsville City Football Club, People say, "Why I call it football?" Well, I mean that's a historical term. And
Sure.
you use your feet, kick a ball. It's football, right?
That's right.
I guess American football should be more likely called handball, right?
Probably.
And so when you start trying to be authentic to the sport, so Huntsville City Football Club, Huntsville City FC, some people are calling it Huntsville City, just like you call it Manchester City instead of Manchester United, and some people are calling it HCFC. Some people are referring to the boys in blue. And so kind of not really pushing any direction on that. I mean, our logo says HCFC and things like that. But it's really, if it kind of happens on its own, what the nicknames are, what they call them, I'm going to see. I think that ends up being a lot more authentic than if we try to kind of not call it something and then try to push something, right?
Yeah.
So the community will embrace it, and they'll start nicknaming it, and we'll see what happens.
I think I'm going to go with City. I'm going to go see City play.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with that?
If people say, "Who do you work for?" I said, "I work for Huntsville City." Then I realized, well, what do you do? The which department? I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Huntsville City Football Club." So probably HCFC has become a pretty popular shorthand.
And here's your artwork for your home opener.
Yeah.
And you're, again, going against Crown Legacy, which you opened the season with, of course, away, the Charlotte affiliate.
Yeah, that was.
And there's those, the checkerboard is from the Saturn rocket, right?
Yep.
That was, and then.
Yeah, I placed an element around the rocket. There was the checkerboard, and then obviously the stars. And then May 19th. Wow, that's getting close.
I know. It's only.
I was like, whoa, that's real when you see it on a screen.
Probably when May 1st hits, you're going to really feel it.
Yeah, I think between now and then it's all going to be just a whirlwind. But that's exciting.
And here's while we're on it, I have the stuff up. Well, here's your schedule, the home schedule.
Yep.
And again, I always love detail and attention to detail. And sometimes it's nice to see logos in like their native color set. But I also love this, where it's very simple, it's very clean, and just I liked how it's just 5.19. Just even the syntax of stuff.
Yeah,
really sends a message.
The nomenclature, the branding nomenclature, and the hierarchy and philosophy is really, really cool to see it visually. But what's going to be really cool too, excuse me, as you look up there, you see teams that are coming in from all across the country and literally from out of the country. Toronto will fly in, and what's other than maybe like Cincinnati and Atlanta, most of those teams will fly into Huntsville International. So it's going to be a really unique thing when the Inter-Miami second team flies in from Miami, or the team from Chicago Fire flies in, New England flies in. You're getting these major cities, the Bostons, Chicagos, Miamis, Torontos of the world flying into Huntsville, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be cool for us. And that's going to be a new way to experience. I suspect you'll see some of our fans politely greet our opponents as they land at Huntsville International and make their way to the Huntsville Marriott, which is our visiting team hotel.
Oh, by the Space and Rocket Center.
Yep.
So when we were just looking at the schedule and all that, that's the marketing department, and ultimately they report to you, and you're in the review process?
Well, that's the nice part is that, while we have local decision making, we actually have our partners in Nashville who frankly provide a lot of the creative legwork and just because they do such a great job up there. So it's a real hybrid model where we have, a local decision making process, but also a very close direct collaboration with our partners and our colleagues in Nashville.
Somewhat similar to like a franchise in a way, where maybe you get some of your services, not necessarily like a franchise where they're probably going to dictate, thou shalt, it's got to look like this, but at least they give you a leg up.
Yeah, there's some assets that we get that if we weren't part of the Nashville Soccer Club family, that would be hard to obtain at a second or third division soccer level. So we're very fortunate. So
walk us through the ticketing options, and let's start with season tickets.
Okay.
Is that seemingly that's something like they're going to impart to you? Is there anything different about our local market that changes that, adjusts that as far as what, consumer preferences towards?
Yeah. So right now, starting in, I think around April 18th and 19th, single game tickets will go on sale. Right now you can buy season tickets as well as group sale tickets. And season tickets, we have 14 home matches, and the entry level is $10. So for $140, cheaper than going to most movies, right? You can get season tickets for those 14 matches. And so that's that's something we really wanted to make it approachable. If someone said, I have 5 kids, right? So getting season tickets, if I did it, if it was, all high end stuff, it could get pretty expensive. But so we have that entry level option, but we also have premium assets. From field boxes to patio access seats to a hospitality suite. So all of those are available now. We actually have one field box remaining. We've been really well received. Haley Flooring and Huntsville International Airport and the Paulus Law Firm and Foundation Title, they all purchased one where they get to use it for the whole season. So if any of the listeners want one of the best seats in the house, so that's available. And then if you have a group, from 10 to 100 to 200, whatever, you can reach out to us. And we've already had soccer clubs reach out. We've had corporate groups reach out. We've had community groups reach out. Like, hey, we want to buy 100 tickets together. We want to sit together there.
Yeah.
And so we'll do our best to make that happen. And you can go to HuntsvilleCityFC.com and work your way through the navigation tool. But there's links to get to the right people. And we have a local ticketing team in place now. They just started this month, so that's great. So in addition to our colleagues in Nashville, we have Rachel and Lucas here to help you out.
And let's talk about food.
I like food.
You're overseeing that and concessions and bringing in a chef and food operations?
Slightly different in the sense that Levy, which is nationally renowned concessionaire, super talented folks. They're the concessionaire for Nashville Soccer Club at Geodis Park. So they're going to be the concessionaire for here. And that's really fortunate because normally they don't necessarily focus on these smaller stadiums because of that existing relationship.
Nice.
And so so we'll have some really, if you've been to Geodis Park and you've enjoyed the level of food quality and beverage quality, we're working with the same people up there. It won't be as extensive, obviously. Geodis is a huge, much larger stadium, but a great attention to detail. We've already announced, for example, the beer garden.
Yeah.
Will be is the Yellowhammer Brewing Beer Garden.
Oh, sweet.
And so we love that Ethan and the team there were stepped up and they partnered with us. And so the beer garden is it's going to be open during matches, obviously, but we also have a vision. We have to finalize things. We have a vision that it could be a place to meet even when there's not a match being played. Kind of the inspiration is Zambruski's at the Iceplex, whereas they have the craft beer destination up there. So even if a hockey game's not going on, you could still go up there. We could see the Yellowhammer Brewing Beer Garden operate in a similar way, hopefully sometime this year.
Yeah, I think I saw a map where the beer garden looks twice as big as the concession stand.
Beer garden's a great space. It's overlooking the field, the pitch, looking straight at the Jumbotron. It's got lots of different taps in there. There'll be some food options, some nice shades, some cornhole things. It's gonna be a fun place to watch a match.
I can't remember. I know you're from Michigan, and you saw some hockey growing up.
Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah. Do you remember? I went to a Senators and Habs game in Ottawa once, and I just remember my takeaway was, oh my gosh, there was like 10 bars in there. Like they were just killing it with food. But did you also experience that going to NHL games where they had you were able to access the bar, if you will, even if there was no game going on?
Well, it would have been illegal for me to do so because I moved when I was 18.
Okay. Or were you aware of it?
And if I did, I would not admit it.
That's right.
No. There are some stadiums. I know, not necessarily the Red Wings. I'm not sure about their current facility that have venues that are open both before and after the match, or even on non-match days. I think of the Nashville Sounds play at, I think it's First Horizon Park up there in Germantown. And they have a facility called the Bandbox where there's some events. The Montgomery Biscuits play at Riverfront Park in Montgomery, and they have an area there, a bar that even if there's not a baseball game going on, there's a way to enter it, and you can have special events there. So the whole idea is that, to try to create revenue opportunities more than just during the matches.
Sure.
And because that obviously helps pay the bills, keeps the lights on. But it's also going to a stadium and, having, some food or some beverage. And even if a game's not going on, the field's still there. It looks beautiful. The Jumbotron will be on. We could have something broadcast up there. So it'll just be a fun after work place to gather for people.
So now that you've been in the role a little while, 6 months? 6
Since
months?
September, yeah.
7 months?
Feels like it's been.
Is there an aspect of the job that you didn't expect that you would enjoy as much as you do? Or even like, well, I'm actually pretty good at this. I didn't think I'd be good at this.
The interactions with our coaches and players and our soccer leadership team, I didn't know enough other than just what you pick up being a soccer parent. But interacting with them and learning about the game and learning about how their career paths are and how much hard work they put in. I mean, it's going to the training. I never went to training and watched them train now. Just see how much attention to detail, just physically training, but also videotape, tape viewing, and just the quality of the food they put in their body and things like that. Just what it takes to be a professional athlete. You kind of read those articles, but to see it firsthand, that's been a really interesting element. And then, getting to continue to connect with a lot of the same people I connect with at DHI. Because at DHI, I mean, we sold sponsorships. We had events that people came to. We did, so it was in a lot of similarities in some areas, different focus, but still able to connect. So a lot of our DHI members are also season ticket holders now here. And so I still get to see some of those colleagues and friends. Yeah. And we're at Lincoln Mills, so I mean it's on the north side of downtown, so I still get to be down there quite a bit. So
every time I eat downtown, I think I'm probably gonna run into Chad at some point. I'm sure he's still eating downtown.
Man, it used to be. I was always walking the streets of downtown. Now don't make it as much, but I'll say this has been a lot of fun. It took a little while from when you leave and you see a trash can needs to be fixed or things like that, but now it's been long enough that I can go downtown and just enjoy myself as a guest. Sure. And like when you used to see all those people enjoying playing the life-size Connect 4 or, enjoying the Secret Art Trail or things like that, it was kind of hard to enjoy because you were kind of like, helping to lead that effort. But now I've been along. So Rob and Carla and Megan and the entire board at DHI have continued a great job. But I'll go down there and eat now and just enjoy the meal and not just get stressed out. I was like, oh, we need to move that over there. that plant needs watered.
It was great. Last week was AUSA Global.
And it was hopping downtown.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And my boss's boss, everybody was in town, and I have to entertain, if you will. And there's a little bit of pressure, like you picked the wrong place. But we went to La Esquina Cocina once.
Excellent choice.
We went to Taco Mama. Tried to showcase Huntsville, right?
Yeah.
And even as a family, we don't go to chains. We're gonna keep. Support even I guess Taco Mama came out of Birmingham, maybe.
It's a micro chain, yeah.
But it's a micro chain, right? But it's still regional enough. But we haven't, no disrespect to Cheesecake Factory, we haven't done that yet because you can go there anywhere in the country. So, but they left like, man, we love the food here.
Yeah.
Like we went to Blue Plate, of course, to enjoy the breakfast, aspect. Like this is what you do if you're in business development or in this community, right? You go to Blue Plate. So.
Well, that's been interesting to see is whether it be AUSA or SMD or the Cyber Summit, even the Von Braun Symposium, the big Von Braun dinner. They've held it downtown at the VBC recently. And one thing I've heard people say is, I leave the session or I leave the dinner and I walk back to the embassy or the AC or 106 Jefferson and my after party is there or my private meeting is there. And so you're seeing people walk all around downtown with their lanyards and everything like that. Whereas, if you're not based in downtown, it's harder to do that. It's not impossible. Yeah. But it's just harder to be able to walk out. Usually you have to get in a car, hop on a bus or something like that. So I think when you walk out the VBC, you can go just about any direction and find something interesting. And so that's been a real cool part of the Huntsville convention experience.
Every time I get on these calls, there's like these calls of the team that's going to be coming down, and what are we going to do when we have our booth, and who are we going to talk to? Well, how far is it to look? Just stop. Nothing is more than 20 miles, and most of the time we're going to drive 4 or 5 miles, if that. Right, we're just outside Gate 9. How far is it to this? Stop asking me that question. This is not DC. We're not going to get snarled in traffic. You're going to really enjoy how easy it is to get around.
Yeah, I literally left Lincoln Mill, which, was, it took me 20 minutes to get here, which is on the other side of the county, right?
Easy to get on 565.
And pop there. So, we're very fortunate to live in Huntsville. There is just the Huntsville area, Madison, Madison County. It's its quality of life is super high. And part of that is the amenities like soccer, but partly is just the ability to not get stuck in traffic all the time. You're always going to have traffic certain times of the day, but there are some cities you get into, you just know it could be Sunday at 3 p.m. and there's going to be a traffic jam. And that's just kind of soul killing.
Is there, I guess on that topic, anything infrastructure wise that needs to be addressed in this overall plan? Yeah, you're going to start playing games there, but is there some road improvements or other things around the stadium that need to be done?
Yeah, the city has created really ample, easily accessible parking. Some facilities it's harder to. It's really convenient there. There's 5 or 6 ways to get in and out. But there's also the festival grounds. There's the Iceplex. There's private development that'll be starting very soon, including a hotel right outside the stadium, as well as additional retail and office. There'll be lofts that'll go under construction. It'll kind of like how you see at Town Madison, where you have the stadium, and then you're seeing different types, whether it be how places to live, places to stay, places to enjoy a meal, pop up around it. You're going to see that all around Joe Davis as well. So. I don't try to wish away the future. I mean, I've got to teach myself, stay in the present. That's where, because that's where you are right now, right? Stay in the present, enjoy it. But it is kind of tempting to look 3-4 years down the road and think about all the people that will be walking from their apartment over to an HCFC match.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that Joe Davis, the stadium will keep its name, but the field, the pitch might be named. Is that still in the works?
Yeah,
that's a ways off.
We'll have an announcement. We anticipate before opening match.
Oh, cool.
So it'll be blank field at Joe Davis Stadium. So we'll keep the historical nod to Joe Davis Stadium, but also add a new field name, and so we're excited about that.
That's cool. I'm jealous, Chad. It's always fun to build something. It's been fun just to build a podcast.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not on the same level. I make no money compared to anybody else, actually a job, but it's just fun to be a part of anything where you can build something the ground up. And maybe even, 5, 6, 7 years from now, I'm not saying you're going to get bored, but you might be like, man, what's the next challenge, right? I've done Downtown Huntsville now. We've done the Huntsville City Football Club. I want to do something next. What's next?
Yeah, that's I'm not.
You don't have to
I honestly
that.
have not had that thought yet. We are in the present moment here, but I know what you're saying. I think I'm wired like that as well. As I would never thought from going to law school, practicing law, then teaching law, then starting a city department in Montgomery, to a nonprofit for downtown, to a minor league soccer team. I mean, it's not the traditional career arc, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have done it any different, because the traditional career arc, that can be rewarding. People, I mean, I had relatives who worked in Detroit in auto industry for 40, 50 years, and just had a very fulfilling life, and I celebrate that. For whatever reason, my brain likes to create those things and new challenges, and so this is going to be a long-term challenge. So I'm not thinking in the future yet. I'm just thinking about May 19th.
If you do too well, it's going to be tempting if Disney comes by and says, "Hey, Chad,
no,
we've got an interesting
Disney.
project."
I love Disney. I mean, that's been a great experience. With taking this job, I kind of stepped away from writing the magazine column that I wrote and doing all that, just because it's so much focus is required here. But Disney is a great memory.
And go back and watch episode 8, folks. I mean, I'm embarrassed of the lighting. I've improved a lot since then, but I think the content was good. Of course, the audio is good. But we talked a little bit about Chad, and just on a personal level, didn't want to revisit that today.
Yeah.
But Disney, you've written some books, and very much a expert that people even seek after, right, on that story. I'm going to pop over. I want to just roll through some pictures.
Okay.
And then just have you comment on them. Let's
Yeah.
see if this will work. Maybe I have to do this.
It's like a rapid fire type thing, or
Yeah, it's just I call it. I used to do like a pick six, but I sometimes just like these just really came from your Facebook, so it's not to be a surprise to you.
Nope.
But if you can just kind of talk through, give commentary on what this shot is.
Yep, that's at the that's a young professionals group for the I believe it's the Home Builder Association. And so we've talked to a lot of groups, but I believe that was the case. And what's really been exciting is the groups that have reached out. And so you could see the Home Builders YP, come to a game or come to a match and sit together or enjoy the beer garden, things like that. So it's just an example of I've probably talked to more different types of groups. It really shows you that the appeal of soccer is, and really Joe Davis Stadium is broader than just just youth soccer clubs or just adult soccer leagues. It's also so that was that group. That was fun. Had Dallas Mill Deli there, one of my favorite sandwiches. Yeah.
And you used to be a professor, so you're certainly used to. This must be fun for you, right? To obviously you're not nervous, but to really be kind of, you're not teaching them, but you are trying to sell and impress and motivate them around the stuff. But that's got to be somewhat of a comfort zone for you.
Yeah, I'm probably more comfortable talking in front of a group than in a one-on-one conversation sometimes.
Yeah, I tell people I would never get nervous in front of a large group, but if it's like, let's say 9 people, and it's kind of a semicircle, and it's just kind of like they're hyper staring at you. Yeah, I would get. I'm not nervous in a one-on-one, but like 9 people, like it's a little bit weird, because then you can sense every like nonverbal. You can see their reaction to you versus a sea of people, and you're like, whatever. All right, now we're getting into the preseason match.
That was our first preseason match at John Hunt Park. Those are our supporter groups. And what supporter groups are unofficial groups that form themselves, but they're there to provide really dedicated support to the club. And so they'll come out, they'll create their own jerseys, scarves, they'll bring drums, teams. That's part of the excitement. When you hear the drums being banged and chants, it's often led at soccer matches by the supporters group. And so as a brand new team, there wasn't a team to support, until November, right? There's just a concept of a team. And so you've seen them come together. I believe there's 3, maybe 4 different supporter groups. So what you do is we provide them support. And so if they need to bring their drums in early or if we need to help in some ways, but they are self-governed. Okay. And so that's what's really cool. That's our supporter group there. And they were loud and proud at our preseason matches. I can't wait till May 19th to hear them.
That's awesome. Next shot.
Yeah. There's our crew right there. That was, I believe, after our first preseason match as well. We beat the Savannah Clovers, and Chris, and I say Isaiah in there. Again, my eyes aren't...
You're starting to get to know.
It's Ollie and Chris and a couple of their folks. And that was one of the things that our head coach really encourages the player, and it didn't take much encouragement because the players really embraced it, is go interact with your fans. And so they would walk along the fence line there and shake hands, and kids would come afterwards and get selfies and autographs. So we have a great squad.
Now, I believe... I'm going to guess you traveled somewhere and you went on a run with the team?
Yes.
Because you're sweating like
that is actually... that was at our home match, or our inaugural match weekend in Charlotte. And that's a really cool picture. That's a fun group. Right over my left shoulder is Liam Doyle, who's our director of soccer operations. And a very fast runner. And then the other 3 gentlemen work for Major League Soccer Next Pro. They're part of the league office, including the guy in the far right, I guess, to my right is Charles Alchek. He's the president of the league. And we got there, and they had been here a few times. I mean, this model where you have a team that's unique but still part of the parent organization is something they're really exploring. They've really encouraged because it creates new markets for soccer while also continuing the support. And so they've been big supporters, Eber and all of them there. So the guy in the middle, Eber, he's a fast runner. I was just like, I need this run to be done.
Did they have to slow down for you?
I think I was able to keep up. Maybe they did it, but I never asked them to slow down. So but anyways, you can see it definitely. That is not a sweater vest I'm wearing. That's how much we sweated.
I noticed that you ran I think you ran a 5K the other day at like an 8-minute pace. That's awesome.
Yeah. Liam and I ran it. It was actually Rippleworks, Timo Sandritter, and our head coach ran a group there as the Double Helix Dash. Okay. And so, honestly, I hadn't run many races since the end of the half marathon challenge I did, and so we just started running. And Liam and I run quite a bit. Each week, instead of grabbing coffee, we have our kind of internal meeting while we run, which is a cool way to do it. And so we just started running, and we started going and going. Next thing you know, I don't know, maybe we're just excited by the adrenaline being in a big crowd like that. And all of a sudden, we're like, man, we're running pretty fast. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, 25:05. He ended up taking off at the very end, so I couldn't keep up with him for the last half mile. But
I just bought a pair of Brooks glycerins last night.
Okay.
I'll talk about something later, but that's all I wear now. I love the Brooks adrenalines or glycerins, and
I'm a Hoka guy.
You're a Hoka guy?
Yeah, Hoka. Hoka
Okay.
only.
Let's see here. And this is you guys traveling.
Yeah. So that's Liam. That's us at Huntsville International. We flew. It's nice to have that direct flight to Charlotte for our first match. So
Yeah.
team hopped on there. Those are two of our player coaches. And my far right is Nikki Law, really talented field player, and then John Berner. I believe that's John. Yes, it's John, who's our player coach, goaltender, super talented goaltender, and two really great guys.
That's awesome. And now you got all the players there.
Yeah. That is when we landed in Charlotte. And so the whole crew was there. The soccer staff and the players, all travel in our gear. So it's like when I was talking about the other teams coming to Huntsville International, you'll know it's a team because it's not just kind of dressed in whatever. They're all traveling. And so it's a sharp looking team right there.
You were able to, you were able to get the same flight? You didn't have to charter? How did that work?
Yeah, we have that direct flight. So there's a kind of like a travel agent that the league uses. So in this case, the ironic thing is we have direct flights. We'll drive to Atlanta because it's close enough. We'll bus there, but we have direct flights to Chicago, to Orlando.
That's right.
To
Vegas.
Charlotte, to DC's not in the league this year, but three of the teams that we have direct flights to, Houston, Dallas, and Denver, are actually in the Western Division, so we don't play them in the regular season. But otherwise, that was nice to hop on that flight, and about 90 minutes later, land in Charlotte.
I got to teach you something. You know the difference between nonstop and direct?
Oh, yeah. Direct is you don't have to get off the plane, but it may stop.
It might stop.
Let other people off or other people on. Nonstop is it's in the air. That's and it lands, yeah.
So a lot of times there's confusion of I only say that because I was a travel agent.
Yep.
And my sister's like, she owned the travel agency. Like, when somebody says they want a direct flight, make sure they understand what they're asking for.
Yeah, Southwest, I think, used to do that a lot. They'd have direct flights where you'd hop on the plane and you would never have to get off.
You stop, but don't
But
get
you
off.
would stop once.
I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe for security and stuff, too, after 9/11. That's got to get the blood going, though, right? When you're traveling. Like, there's just nothing like this is real. Here we go. There's a lot of logistics, but here we go to Charlotte.
Yeah, and I'll travel a few times with the team. A couple key matches here like that. That's, usually don't travel that much, but that was a fun trip, and I'll be joining them in a couple other places. But
let's see, I think I thought I had one more picture, and I think it was the. Let me see if I have it. There it is. Yeah, you're talking about interacting with the fans. There's nothing like this.
Yeah, that might be Azad. Liati. It looks like Azad. And that was, coach said, hey, we should sign lineup, sign autographs, things like that. But it did not require a lot of pressure for the player. And then there's Kemi Amici right behind him.
Yeah.
They were just happy to do so. And that's really important on this levels because for these little kids, we don't have professional, like major league soccer teams here. So when you start meeting the Havoc hockey players or the Trash Panda baseball players or HCFC soccer players, those are your local heroes, right?
Yeah.
Sporting heroes, at least.
That's right.
And so it was so fun to see some of those youth groups getting pictures with them. So that's, like I said, this is about a sport.
Sure.
And it's fun to win. But that is more fun than anything we could do. And, winning helps, and he doesn't have a team unless there's competition. But the ability to just make that kiddo right there happy that day, that's a neat thing.
It's priceless. That reminds me, like with baseball, there's a guy, Shohei Ohtani, right?
Yep.
He, Logan O'Hoppe is a catcher, and he's moving up through the ranks really quick. So he was with the Pandas last year. He's already hit 2 homers. He's a starting catcher for the Angels, and they're calling it Show Hoppy because when Ohtani pitches to O'Hoppe, right?
Yeah.
But for any of us who are like, just like the soccer players we're going to get to know, or the Havoc players you get to know, you want them. It's exciting when they have success, and maybe you're that little kid who got Logan O'Hoppe's, autograph when he was here in the Rocket City.
Yeah, neat stuff. And a lot of these players, the way it's set up is there's a direct pipeline. You may see this player, and within a year, 2, whatever time frame, you could see them playing Major League Soccer. You could see them on the U.S. men's national team or another national team. There is this is not the end of the road for a lot of these folks. This is the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell on this a lot, but I'm just gonna pop. Let me just go to the internet one more time. This is the MLS Next, so this is not the Pro, which is brand new, but just to show, there's 133 clubs, 590 teams, 11,000 players across the U.S. and Canada, and 90% of the current youth are national team player pools. So I want to thank you just for allowing me to. I always like to dive in and research any guest, of course, but it's been a while since I've done research just on soccer and the state of soccer, and I have noticed that soccer is doing a great job, or the Premier League, right? And it seems like with Nashville, the front office, the ownership come from Europe, where is where it was invented and tried and true, right? And a lot of American kids, they love Liverpool, they love Arsenal, they love Tottenham, whatever.
Yep.
And it's changing. And there's all these statistics of, well, kids used to like baseball, they don't like it as much anymore. Kids aren't playing football, it's too dangerous, they're not playing anymore. And soccer is in this unique position now where it seems like it's finally really not only just gaining traction, but it's gaining momentum. And that like blew me away just at the number of and even the creation of the next pro is a step in there. How do we compete in the World Cup? Really, I think is what it comes down to.
And it's funny, it's because, I mean, a lot of times trends start in the U.S. and kind of percolate around the world, the opposite is here. I mean, soccer has been one of the most popular sports in the world for a long, long time. And it's been popular maybe on the youth level, but now the level of players coming up through the homegrown system has been really exciting to see. So I think the American audience is realizing it's not just how many goals or points are scored. It's the quality of the physical experience in front of you, how they play, the strategy. It can be a 2-1 game, and that can be very exciting. We have lots of great saves and shots and playmaking. And so I think people are starting to appreciate what the rest of the world, most of the rest of the world, has appreciated for a long, long time.
Are you a golf fan?
Nope. I mean, I like watching the Masters.
Yeah. Well, you've heard of Live. Like the Live
yeah,
tour.
yeah.
I don't think people don't realize it, but the reason that I don't like Live Golf and why I don't think it's ever going to catch on, quite frankly, is there's the European. People don't realize the European influence of when they invented golf and how we've Americanized it. But the reasons we love the PGA Tour are it's for competition. Mm-hmm. It's there's drama. There's all these things that go into that. There's history, right, where you play, and Live is like, unfortunately, just like they're just televising weekend golf.
Yeah,
scrambles and shot, and it's all great. But I don't think, and I've played in Australia, I've played in England, I've played in Canada, where it's very different. It's very different, and so it's really cool to see now kind of soccer. I think we're working together with Europe and Africa, whatever, to make this. Yep. It is the global game,
and the World Cup's returning in 2026.
That's right.
That's what's so exciting about this is we're launching this team. I mean, in 3 years, the World Cup is going to return, and some of the matches will be played in the southeastern United States, in Atlanta, and other places that'll be very approachable. So, exciting time for the beautiful game.
I'm going to ask you 10 questions.
Okay.
And actually, the first 6 are word association. I'm going to give you a word. You respond with a word or a phrase. Kind of first thing comes to mind. I'm going to put on my glasses.
Okay.
I'm going to switch to this camera.
All right. Let's do it.
And then the last 4 are just quick questions. All right?
Okay.
Pele.
Greatest.
World Cup.
Epic.
Artemis.
Heavens.
U.S. soccer.
Up and coming.
Downtown Huntsville.
The best.
Monday mornings.
Exciting.
All right, that's the end of the word association.
Okay. How did I do?
Good.
Okay. Did I pass?
You're the first guest I've ever done that with.
Okay.
Favorite Olympic sport.
Favorite Olympic sport. So this is going to be kind of funny. Is in terms of watching a sport in the Olympic, not I love watching swimming.
I do too.
At the Summer Olympics, it's because it's always like, and down to the wall they come, and I'm just like, I don't watch much swimming outside of the Olympics, but watching the Summer Olympics swimming and then watching the bobsled, luge, and all that kind of stuff in the Winter Olympics. That's crazy.
Skeleton.
Those people are out of their mind.
All right. If you were to play soccer, what jersey number would you want?
That's interesting. I don't have a strong opinion on that. I mean, I played goaltender growing up through high school, so I usually had like 0, a low number, but whatever number.
Okay. So no preference.
Nope.
Okay. I think I understand this question. It's funny how you write things down and then later like, what did I mean by that? Give me a guarantee. So when we come out on during whether it's the season opener or any of the home games there are, give a guarantee to a fan of what they're going to experience when they come.
That we will have worked as hard as we possibly can to provide a great experience for you and your family and friends.
Now, last question, because I love food, and I love going to ballparks, and I'm always a sucker, especially like if you're watching TV and they're like, as far as like going in commercial or out of commercial, they'll focus on something they're serving at the stadium. And just, I wish I was there. Right? Oh my gosh, that looks so good. But when you finally get to hopefully enjoy the game, season opener, and you're seated wherever you're going to be seated, give me an idea of what you're looking forward to as your game meal. Can't wait to sit down, drink whatever, a beer, and eat. What would be your ideal dining, concession experience there?
Oh, I mean, something, it's going to be in the summer, so like a refreshing soft drink or adult beverage, but something handheld, like a bratwurst or a barbecue sandwich or something like that. Something that feels like summertimey, because that's a cool thing about our season. Even though we're on the road for the first 7 matches, almost all summer long we'll be home. So I'm thinking of like summer picnic, beach type food. And
awesome.
So, yeah.
Chad, do you have any final shout outs or?
No, just encourage everyone to check out HuntsvilleCityFC.com. That's where you can get tickets. You can get merchandise. We've had some really popular, our away jerseys are released. We'll reveal our home kits really soon. And even if you've never been to a soccer match, even if you never watched soccer, if you don't have a kid out, I would encourage you to come out to one of our matches. They're super fast paced. You'll be in and out of there probably in 2.5 hours. But more than anything, there'll be high energy, excitement, all ages friendly entertainment that we're bringing back to the Rocket City.
I do have one final question. So in your dealings with Liam and Ian and those who I guess they are familiar with Nashville, of course, in the South, but is there anything about Huntsville that they've mentioned to you like, oh man, I really love this, or I was really surprised by this?
Yeah, I think all of them, like kind of mentioned the food. People enjoy the food, the natural beauty. I mean, we just kind of get used to seeing Montesano overlooking downtown, and the convenience, and just how many people are here that aren't from here. Yeah. So they bring all of their life experiences from different parts of the country and the world here. So that creates a pretty cool melting pot.
Well, I'm excited to see you on May 19th. I don't know if I get to see you or not. I'll try.
I'll come find you.
Yeah, I'll text you.
Wear your hat.
I'll wear it. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be awesome. I should be back. My son gets married the week before. Then I think high school graduation for Clemens is the day before. So I think I'm in town. It's all good.
All right.
Can't wait for it.
Let's do it.
All right, Chad. All the best.
All right. Thank you.
Good luck.